evening and welcome to this live session on the opportunity and preparation strategy for the SSC CGL exam 2016 brought to you by TalentSprint. Like you all know, last week there were two major notifications from the Staff Selection Commission, right? One was about the results for the last year's combined graduate level examination, and the second one, as expected, was the notification for this year's CGL exam, right? That is the combined graduate level exam conducted by Staff Selection Commission on a yearly basis. Basically, the SSC CGL recruitment process is going to be a three-phase, or I would say rather two-phase, two-stage recruitment, right? Stage 1 is the Tier 1 examination, and Stage 2 is, as usual, the Tier 2 examination, right? The regular Stage 3, which used to be an interview, has been scrapped. However, for a few posts, we will have a computer proficiency test or a typing test, right? And otherwise, it is going to be document verification. So basically, that's about what has happened in the last week, right? Two important updates: the results of last year's recruitment and notification for this year's recruitment. Now, coming back to this session, it is about the opportunity, right? And how should one get ready for this year's SSC CGL exam, right? I know the most important question that all of you will have is about the preference for the posts that we have, right? You know that there are like 26 plus different types of posts for which recruitment is done to this exam. So all of you are like wondering and confused about what should be the ideal preference order, right? And I can already see one of the comments from Neerav who says, please share your preferences selected while applying for SSC. So although the application process has started on 13th Feb itself, I know most of you wouldn't have applied yet, only to get clear with this preference post, right? Preference of the post there. So let us talk about the important dates first. You know that the notification released on 13th Feb and the application actually has started on 13th Feb itself, and it will go on up to 14th March. So you clearly have a 1 month window to complete your application process, right? And on 14th March, it will get closed at 5 p.m. So ensure that you complete your application well in advance. Do not wait for March to arrive and then 14th March to arrive to complete your application process, right? Because every year we see many students getting rejected just because they were not able to complete their application on the last few days, right? Because of various issues there. So ensure that you complete your application well in advance, and at least after this session gets over, right? Once I give you some clarity about what should be the preference of posts, alright? So that's about the application dates, right? This is when you can apply. Now examination, you know, right? The Tier 1 exam will be in the month of May, right? I've got the notification with me, right? So you know that the Tier 1 exam is going to be on 8th and 22nd of May, right? So Tier 1 on 8th and 22nd May. Well, all this is already given in notification itself. I did not specify, but just to throw a light on the important dates. And I guess Tier 2 will be conducted somewhere in the month of August, right? I don't remember the exact dates. Let me just check if I have. Yes, it is tentatively scheduled for 13th and 14th of August, right? So 13th and 14th August. And definitely in between, we'll have the results for Tier 1 and then the results for Tier 2 and finally your document verification process. I think that's about it. We'll discuss in detail about what the Tier 1 exam is going to be on, right? And what will be the Tier 2 exam all about. Of course, like I said, all these information is given in the notifications too, right? There's a 54-page notification released by SSC. So it is obvious that they have explained everything very clearly. I don't have to discuss anything there. So I think good way to start would be if you have if you can post the questions that you have in your mind, right? I'll probably clear your questions and discuss about the whole preparation strategy there. So I was just running through all the comments that have been posted. I think there were a few important questions that were asked, right? One is that, is the exam online? No, the exam is not online. It was expected that this year they would go online, but as you can see in the notification, they are talking about OMR sheets and a written examination, written objective type examination. So clearly it is going to be a paper-based test, right? Paper and pencil-based test as usual. Second question, important question was, is there a sectional cutoff? Well, no, there's no sectional cutoff so far. If you have seen in the previous year's SSC exams, SSC CGL exams, There was never a section cutoff. There's always a overall cutoff that we have. So how much do you score out of 200 is what matters, right? How good or bad you are in a particular section doesn't really impact, right? Unlike bank exams, right? You know that in bank exams there is a cutoff for each section, but here it is not the case. At least so far it has not been the case, and hopefully even this year that won't be a case there, right? Again, if you look at Tier 2 examination, there are going to be two different papers that will have to appear in, right? Paper 1 will be on quantitative abilities and paper 2 is going to be on English comprehension. So those two papers will have their individual cutoffs, alright? So it's like cutoff at the paper level, it is not at the section level. So I guess these were the two important questions. Then questions like how do we prepare for non-verbal reasoning, how do we prepare on geometry, what are the important questions, and what is the preference order that we should go for, and things like that. So I think let us go through the notification. I have important parts of the notification with me. Let us understand what all has been mentioned here, and then we'll look at one of the previous year's paper. Well, we'll not solve any questions here, but we'll run through the paper and understand what are the important topics that we must focus on and what should be our strategy to get ready for this exam. Alright. So to begin with, like I mentioned, important dates, application date has been given, the Tier 1 and Tier 2 tentative dates have also been mentioned. So clearly, you can see that in the notification itself. I don't have to mention anything. The most important question, like I said, is about the order in which you must give the post, right? The preference for the post. Well, this is something which is a very big question every year, and this is one area where this is one question where there is no definite answer, right? I cannot say that this is the preference order that you should give. It depends on the individual there. It depends on you, right? It depends on what are the factors that you consider important for your job, right? For example, what are you looking at? Are you looking at a high salary? Then the post will be different, right? I mean, the preference will be different. Are you looking at a location in metros? Then the preference is going to be different. Are you looking for a office kind of job? Then the order is going to be different. Do you actually want to work on the field? Then it will be something else. You're getting it? And do you want? Are you comfortable in all India posting? Then it is going to be different. You understand, right? So all these factors are very, very important and are critical in deciding your preference order. Alright. So what I'll do here is there are different posts here, like for example Central Secretariat Service, Central Vigilance Commission, Intelligence Bureau, Ministry of Railway, Ministry of External Affairs, right? And then we have assistant in various departments and organizations, Central Board for Direct Taxes, CBDT, right? And then we have inspector in the excise department, inspector, preventive officer, examiner, assistant enforcement officer, sub-inspector, divisional accountant in CAG, right? There are various posts here, right? Assistant audit officer, and different pay bands. All those details have been given here, right? The age limit, the pay band, the group, is it a group B post or a group C post, right? And things like that. So like I mentioned, the preference will depend on all the things, right? For example, let's say if you want to go for a high salary, I mean, you want the highest salary. Well, it doesn't really differ much between these posts, but since you can see that the grade pay for assistant audit officer, which is post number F, the code is F, is 4,800, which is the highest here in the entire list. So obviously the salary for this is going to be maximum. So probably you should put this as the first preference, right? Now, are you a guy who is looking at a job in metros, only in metros, or Delhi and state capitals? Then your preference should be among what we have in the first few lines here. For example, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. All these positions, if you see, like assistant section officer, Central Secretariat Services, Central Vigilance Commission, Intelligence Bureau, Ministry of Railway, Ministry of External Affairs, AFHQ, right? All these are going to be those posts which will land you either in a metro or state capitals, right? Most probably, metros like Delhi and others, and state capitals. So if you want to be in a city-like environment, you should give your order in this. Again, within this, what is the order? You can decide yourself. I mean, you'll have some liking or some interest towards a few departments or organizations, right? Like for example, for some of you, it may be like a dream that you should work for Intelligence Bureau. It sounds great, right? It sounds authority, it sounds like power, right? Power in your hands. So if you have some liking like that, then you should give preference to intelligence bureau within these posts. You're getting it? So the point that I'm trying to make here is there is no definite order that you have to go for, right? Order also depends on, you are a male person or a female person. I mean, there will be various constraints. So keeping all these constraints in mind, you should decide. Don't blindly follow the preference order given by your friend, or don't blindly follow the preference order given by someone you know, right? You decide what is important to you. Is it the job location? Is it the type of job? By type of job, I mean office job or field job, or is it salary, or is it like network, right? Various factors are there. Now, if you really ask me which is the most popular one, right? If you have got some analysis, you will know that the most popular category here is M. If you look at M, it is that examiner post, CDEC, examiner post, which draws maximum attention in all these SSC CGL exams, right? Most of the students would like to go for that. Reasons, I'm sure you would know. So I think overall, if you ask me what should be the preference order, it would be something like this. Like for example, if I have to go through some of the previous year's orders there, it is like inspector category M, right? The code M there. What is this actually called? Code, right? The code, the post code M is the most popular one, right? Followed by inspector of income tax, right? Then inspector so basically all these inspector posts there, right? Inspector, which is like in preventive officer basically, right? Then we have assistant audit officer, right? This, like I said, one, highest grade pay 4,800, and second, this is an office job, definitely an office job, and most likely in Delhi and other metros. So I think this you should keep in mind, right? The postcode F is very, very important. Yeah, I think I have Ankit Gupta who is saying that examiner post, he agrees that examiner post is the one which is the most preferred one, right? Examiner. So I think, like I said, no definite order here, but keep all these things in mind, right? And you can, to be very honest, you can actually Google a lot about these various posts. You will get to know what kind of work has to be done in various departments and different types of posts. So you find out what is more suitable to you. But the thumb rule is don't blindly copy your friend's order or your colleague's order. You decide it for yourself, keeping all these things in mind, right? Like I said, if you're looking for office job, this A, B, C, D, E, F, all these are office jobs. Central Secretariat Service, Central Vigilance Commission, Intelligence Bureau, basically assistant post, right? So it is going to be an office job. Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Railway, this assistant audit officer, all these are office jobs, right? Then, if you look at metros, like I said, important, city is important for you, right? City and state capitals. Then again, the same order. Now within this, if you ask me, give me the exact one, I'll not be able to help you, right? Because that is your choice. It's like, you'll have your own preferences, you'll have your own constraints. So keep that in mind, right? There will be various departments here which will be like giving you a posting in coastal regions. So if you're okay with that, if you're okay with an all India level posting, you're okay to go anywhere, then you should definitely go for inspector of income tax, examiner, preventive officer, enforcement officer, etc. Right? Assistant enforcement officer, etc. If you're looking for free AC passes, then you should go for Ministry of External Affairs. Like various things people consider, right? So just do some analysis on that, right? Don't immediately apply, because once you have given a preference order, you'll not be able to change it later, right? So make up your mind very clearly, spend some time, right? Do some Google search about various departments and various posts there. You'll find lots of forums where people have discussed about what has to be done, what needs to be done, and things like that, right? So consider various options and then decide that, okay, this is what I'm going to go for. Stick to it, apply, and apply well in advance. Again, when I say don't apply immediately, doesn't mean that you'll delay it for March, right? Apply within Feb itself, but after doing a thorough analysis of all these posts and keeping various factors in mind, right? The job location, the type of job, salary, network, etc. Alright? I think that should answer your question. If you have anything in specific about a particular job category or a post here, you better Google it, right? I mean, instead of we discussing all these things here, you just better Google it. So that's about it. If you look at the scheme of examination, right? Tier 1 examination, you know that there are 4 different subjects on which they test you: quantitative aptitude, general intelligence and reasoning, English comprehension, and general awareness, right? It is the same year on year, right? Quantitative aptitude, general intelligence and reasoning. Well, of course, the order is different in the notification. I have given the order based on what I like, but actually it starts with general intelligence and reasoning, then followed by general awareness, quantitative aptitude, and English comprehension. In fact, even the exam paper has got the 4 sections in the same order. Starts with general intelligence and reasoning, then general awareness, then quantitative aptitude, and then English comprehension. Alright? So, is there any negative marking for wrong answers? Yes, negative marking is there. Section cutoff may not be there, but negative marking is there, right? There is a negative marking, so you have to be careful, right? You cannot blindly mark the answers here, right? So, Branshu Chakravarti, is the quantitative aptitude harder than the banking in SSC CGL? Well, if you really have to compare quantitative aptitude in bank exams and that in SSC CGL exam, I would say yes. The questions that we get here, I mean, one is it is not difficult or something, but it is not direct. Generally, what we see, and even in bank exams, actually, if you observe these days, we have seen that the type of questions asked are very are not very direct. They are like indirect questions, as in you cannot just substitute a formula and get the answer. You have to do some brain churning there. Same goes with SSC CGL exam as well. What is more important to be observed here is the syllabus of quantitative aptitude of SSC exam is far higher when compared to that of bank exam, because here we have various other mathematics topics like pure mathematics topics like geometry, trigonometry, algebra, surds and indices, and heights and distance, etc., which is not a part of bank exams, right? So because of that, it becomes vast, right? The quantitative aptitude of SSC exam is vast when compared to that in bank exam, right? Because of all these topics. And geometry, is not a simple topic, right? It's not like time and work or time and distance. Geometry is huge, right? It's vast. Same goes with trigonometry, algebra, right? And then other similar topics like heights and distance, which is like very limited. There are not many concepts to be discussed in heights and distance, right? You will be able to solve the questions easily. Then we have surds and indices, etc., right? Same goes with reasoning part. If you compare reasoning of bank exams with reasoning of SSC exam, it is easy. It is definitely easier. I would say general intelligence in reasoning is much easier than what we get in a bank exam, because here we do not get 5-mark questions. Like what happens in a bank exam? Circular arrangements, linear arrangements, complex circular, complex linear, simple circular, simple linear, right? Complex assignments, machine input output, right? And what else? Questions like coded inequalities. Generally 5 markers, which are difficult to solve. Difficult to solve as in not difficult. Even those can be cracked in about 2.5 minutes if you are a smart person. But the difference here is in general intelligence and reasoning, we don't get 5 markers. We get 1 mark questions, right? Each question carries a weightage of 1 mark. And generally very simple. Most of the questions are from topics like analogy, classification, letter series, coding and decoding, alphabet. This constitutes a high weightage in SSC exams. And then there are many questions on non-verbal reasoning. If you observe, in the recent bank exams, you have seen that non-verbal reasoning questions are like getting obsolete, right? We don't find any non-verbal reasoning questions. And for reasons that exam has gone online, so probably they are avoiding it. But in SSC exam, yes, there are questions on non-verbal reasoning. And again, variety of questions are asked, right? Paper folding, paper cutting, mirror images, water images, right? Figure completion, figure analogy, right? So, and embedded figures, etc., right? Figure completion, embedded figures, all these things. So, that is how this is different. Easier, but many other topics. English comprehension, I would say, is largely the same, right? When you compare with the bank exam, this is almost similar, right? We get questions from reading comprehension, we get questions on vocabulary, we get questions on finding errors, we get questions on sentence improvement, we get questions on fill up the blanks, right? So that English comprehension is quite similar to that in bank exams. Now what is completely different is this section, general awareness. And what is asked in this? Anything can be asked. I mean, if you look at the syllabus also, they have given an indicative syllabus. If you see the notification, indicative syllabus has been given, where in general awareness, what does they say? questions in this component will be aimed at testing the candidate's general awareness of the environment around him and its application to society, right? Questions will also be designed to test knowledge of current events and of such matters of everyday observations and experience in the scientific aspect as may be expected of any educated person, right? And you see, the test will also include questions related to India and its neighboring countries, especially pertaining to history, culture, geography, economic scene, general policy and scientific research. Now tell me what is not covered. They're saying history, culture, geography, economic, right, general policy, scientific research, and then they're talking about, scientific aspect which is expected from an educated person. Now that includes biology, chemistry, physics, general sciences, right? Then they are expecting you to be updated with current affairs and other similar events of, day-to-day observations which are important, right? So it is like a ocean of syllabus, right? Anything under the sun can come under general awareness, right? There is no boundary to it. When they say history, we may feel good, okay, we know that questions will be asked from history, but what from history? History by itself is a vast subject. You getting it? And you get one or two questions from that. Then you'll get questions from, definitely one question from physics, definitely one question from chemistry, definitely questions from biology, definitely questions on books and authors. I mean, if you see the trend over the years, previous papers, you'll find that questions from almost every type of science has been asked, right? Like biology, physics, chemistry, again general sciences, right? So that is very, very different. That is very, very, not very different. In fact, that's completely different from a bank exam. Alright? I am getting more and more subjects from our friends here, right? Jayesh says science, polity, history, geography, right? Ankit Gupta also says the same 4 subjects, right? Science, polity, history, geography. So I think this is the comparison with respect to bank syllabus. You get it? And again, very clearly they have specified, right? What are they going to test in English comprehension? So candidates' ability to understand correct English, basic comprehension, and writing ability would be tested, right? And if you really look at it, I would say so far at least, SSC CGL exam paper has been kind of predictable. I generally say that the most predictable thing about competitive exams is unpredictability. But when it comes to SSC exam, at least till date, it has been like similar papers, right? Like for example, if you look at general intelligence and reasoning, there is one question that they ask at the end. That grid question, matrix question. It has come in every exam till date, right? So you can probably expect that this year also they'll ask you one question. And it is very easy to solve. So the point is, you may not know what question exactly it is going to be, but at least the topics are known. Same happens in Tier 2 exam also. Tier 2 exam, when you look at the quantitative abilities and English comprehension paper, they're like, we know that, okay, these many questions are going to come from this particular topic. I mean, I would not like to commit or comment on this anymore, but it is a little predictable, right? SSC papers are little predictable. So this, this should help you understand one very important point, that you must go through as many previous papers as possible. Again, getting previous papers in SSC exam is not difficult. Why? Because exam is paper based, you are allowed to carry the paper outside the examination hall. So it is like public. In bank exams, or since it is gone online now, we cannot take the paper out, right? But SSC exam papers are always given to the candidate, right, after the exam gets over. So you always have papers with you. You can buy books from the market which have got previous papers. And anyway, TalentSprint's SSC programs will also have 10 previous years papers, right? At least 10 previous years papers. So you can go through these papers, which you must actually do, very thoroughly, so that you get a kind of sense of this pattern, right? So that if something similar happens this year, you will find it comfortable, right? It should not be like surprising to you, right? Quantitative aptitude is one where you have to ensure that you work the right way so that you can maximize your score. Because this is not pure arithmetic ability and numerical ability and data interpretation. Definitely there is one 5 marks question in data interpretation. Definitely there are about 15 questions on arithmetic ability, like percentages, profit and loss, simple and compound interest, ratio and proportions, partnership, ages, what else, like systems, right, and stuff like that. But then at least 20 to 25 questions are from the remaining pure mathematics topic, like geometry, trigonometry, algebra, and heights and distance, mensuration, etc. Right? Plane geometry, coordinate geometry, So that's about the syllabus. That's about Tier 1 examination, how we are going to conduct it, right? What are the different subjects that will be tested, and within the subjects, what are the different topics that they are going to test. Now the point is, how do we prepare? How do we prepare for these subjects, right? So let us look at general awareness first. I know many of you will have this question about general awareness, right? How do I get ready with that? Well, let me tell you, 2 to 2.5 months from now, which is enough to get a decent score in this section, right? Although you cannot beat those guys who have been preparing for years together for these kind of exams, but then 10 weeks, 12 weeks of time is enough to get a good score here. But you have to do exhaustive reading, right? You have to read as much as possible. There is no formula or no technique or no shortcut to get the answer. The more you read and the more you keep in your head, it will be easier for you, right? Most importantly, areas of current affairs, right? Like they've clearly mentioned, right? They are expecting the candidate to be updated with things happening in the environment, right? In the day-to-day life, right? So you have to ensure that you read at least 2 newspapers every day, right? One general newspaper and the other one should be, well, if not 2, at least 1 newspaper every day. A general newspaper is a must, right? If you can read a business newspaper, it will be added value, but it will be of much more importance for a bank exam when compared to SSC exam. But when it comes to this kind of a section, definitely 1 newspaper every day. Without fail, you have to go through a newspaper every day and read lot of, go through a lot of content on history, geography, polity, and biology, physics, chemistry. You cannot be a pro in 10 weeks of time in all these areas, but try to read more and more. Right? And that is the reason, if you look at the TalentSprint SSC program, this is not something which cannot be which can be taught in a class. I'm like being very honest. If you expect that somebody can come in a class and teach you general awareness, you are wrong. And the person who is teaching you is also wrong, right? He's just trying to kind of fool you, because this cannot be taught. It has to be done by the individual, right? You have to do it yourself. It is not something like quantitative aptitude you can teach you a shortcut for. Like history, what do we teach about history in a class, and that too for a competitive exam? History as a subject is okay, but history in this format is different, right? So you have to take actions from your end, right? You have to go through a lot of content, and keeping that in mind, that as an important part, what we have done is we have got a lot of PDF content, right? Lots and lots of ebooks on all these different topics that I've mentioned, right? History, geography, polity, biology, physics, etc. So you and covering important parts. Like for example, it is not the whole of history. It is like important things that can be expected. So ensure that you go through a lot of content, right? We have lots of ebooks that I've mentioned. So students can go through it on a day-to-day basis, other than reading newspaper, and get ready for this subject. Of course, we will have special live sessions by our general awareness experts who have been kind of appearing for these kind of exams for, who have got a lot of experience, right? Who are basically civil services aspirants. So they will guide you on what should be the approach. They will again not teach you history, geography in the class, but they will tell you what is the ideal way of preparing for this section and what kind of areas you must focus. Like within history, what should you focus on? Within geography, what should you focus on? Within polity, what should you focus on? Because each of these subjects is like vast, right? So that's about general awareness. English comprehension, like I mentioned, is not something out of the box here, right? Simple finding errors questions, questions on vocabulary, questions on sentence improvement, questions on reading comprehension. So you have to kind of get to know all these rules and all. Like for example, finding errors, I've always seen Sylvia and Avixa talking about 23 types of errors. So you must ensure that you know all the 23 types of errors and how to rectify those errors before you go for the exam. So learn all these basics, right? Get thorough with your basic concepts and fundamentals about English language there, right? The one thing that you have to do on a daily basis is work on your vocabulary, because there will be at least 8 to 10 direct or indirect questions which are based on vocabulary. You always find that 3 questions on synonyms and 3 questions on antonyms are asked in every exam, right? There are questions on questions from reading comprehension which can be based on vocabulary. There are questions on finding errors which can be based on vocabulary. There are questions on another important area here is one-word substitutes. Now, one-word substitute is like your vocabulary. It's like what do you call a person who has I'm sure you understand one-word substitute. I'm not getting an example right away, but questions on one-word substitutes. So all these are like pertaining to vocabulary, right? Idioms and phrases. This is again your vocabulary. So you have to make sure that you kind of try to learn about 20 words, right? Minimum 20 words or 20 idioms and phrases, or different things related to vocabulary every day, right? And you try to use it in your day-to-day communication so that it remains with you at least till the exam. Generally what happens is, students complain that I've read 20 words today, but after 3 days I forget. Because you're just reading it and trying to learn it by heart, which is not going to help you. You should start using it in your communication. You should start to use it as much as possible. So then it remains with you, right? It remains with you and it becomes easy for you to, complete these kind of questions in the exam. General intelligence, I think most of the topics that are tested here are the ones which do not have a definite method of answering. Like for example, if you look at coding and decoding, actually very simple questions are asked. You can solve most of those questions without any difficulty. But the point that I'm trying to make here is there is no method. If somebody says there is a definite method by which you can crack a coding and decoding question, no, that's not possible, right? But then practice is the key, right? The more you practice, the easier it gets. So you must practice more questions on coding and decoding. Then it is about classification. Classification again, questions are simple, but is there a definite method? No. It depends on whether you understand those words or not. It depends on whether you are clear with the different properties of those. You know, right, what is classification? 4 words are given, right? It can be kind of any type of object or 4 animals or something there. You have to classify them, right? So one of them is odd. So basically you have to find out which is the odd one out of these 4. So that is not simple reasoning. I mean, it also involves general awareness. It also depends on your vocabulary, right? If you do not understand the meaning of those words, it is gone. You will not be able to solve it, right? Then there are questions on alphabet. Alphabet again is not something where every question has got a definite method to answer. No. You have to kind of think about the logic there, right? Most are like logical questions, right? Similarly, when you look at non-verbal reasoning. Non-verbal reasoning, is there a method to answer the question? Except questions like figure series, mirror images, water images, there are rules using which you can eliminate the wrong answers, right? Similarly, paper folding, paper cutting, you can follow certain rules to eliminate the wrong answers. But when it comes to figure series, there is no method, right? It is all about finding out the right logic, right? The pattern has to be identified, right? And if you look at topics like critical thinking or maybe Venn diagrams and other sections like blood relations, directions, these have got some methods. Like for example, blood relations. For every type of question, there is a method which can be followed. Directions, there is a method that can be followed, right? Then certain questions from alphabet, there is a method that can be followed. So you can apply that method and get the answer. But the idea is, many questions are like logical, right? You'll have to kind of get the right logic at the right time. And the only way to ensure that you maximize your score is practice as many questions as possible. So this is like thorough practice is needed for general intelligence. Of course, practice is needed for the remaining sections as well, but more importantly, this section here, general intelligence and reasoning, because very simple topic, very simple section. You can definitely score close to 100% marks here. Quantitative aptitude. Now, quantitative aptitude, I've told you, half of it is like similar to bank exams, but then there is other half which is like a nightmare for most of us, right? I mean, geometry, trigonometry, algebra, heights and distance. So what do? Again, this is one topic, one section where for every question there is a definite method, right? There is no question from quantitative aptitude where there is no method, right? For every question, right? You name a topic, profit and loss. For all the different types of questions in profit and loss, there is a step-by-step process that can be applied. There is a shortcut formula that can be applied, right? There is a method that can be followed, right? Similarly, in geometry, trigonometry, algebra, there are methods. Now, whether you follow a traditional method or a shortcut formula or use a simple elimination technique, it depends on you. But the point here is, there is a definite process that can be applied to arrive at the answer. Now, given this, you should ensure that you are aware of all those processes and all the different types of questions that can be asked. So again, this is one section where you have to be thorough with the basic concepts, the fundamentals, the shortcut formulae, the smart methods of answering the questions, and keep practicing, right? Especially when you look at topics like algebra and trigonometry. Well, many people find it as a nightmare. I would say this actually is very easy to solve. If you are good in substitution, if you are good in elimination, these are the topics where questions can be cracked in less than 10 seconds. Right? Although, if you follow traditional method, algebra, trigonometry, if you follow regular method, it may take 2 minutes. But if you go by a smart method, you can crack it in 10 seconds. I mean, elimination, substitution, substitute random values in the question and in the options, and verify. See, we'll talk about all these things in detail when we do more live sessions, right? We'll come up with more such live sessions on SSC CGL exam, right? Focusing on quant alone, focusing on general intelligence reasoning alone. So there we'll be discussing this in detail. But I'm just trying to give you an idea on how should your approach be, right? What should be your approach when you start preparing for these sections. But one very important point which you have to keep in mind, especially when it comes to quantitative aptitude, is your calculation ability. The sole reason why many of us are left behind in this section is because we are not so strong in calculation. We feel, now I'm sure if I ask you, what do you think you should do to score more in quant? You will say shortcut formula. I should know the shortcut formula. I should know the smart method, which is correct. You have to know it. But if you are thinking only knowing the shortcut formula is going to help you, you are wrong. Are you able to follow? Because one very important tool that can help you score more in this section is the way you do your calculations. Most of us try to do paperwork even for simple calculations. Questions as simple as 12 into 18. Just think yourself, right? I mean, it is all about realizing your mistakes, right? If you have to find out what is 12 into 18, how many of you would have done it on paper? Most of you will do it on paper. I am not trying to discourage you, right? I am not saying that you cannot do it without paper. But we tend to do it because we have been doing the same thing since our childhood, right? Always we have done calculations on paper. Calculator is not allowed. If at all calculator is allowed, you will definitely score you will get a better score, right? Without calculator, if you are scoring 35 marks, let's say, with calculator, the same questions, if you are to be, if the same questions are to be solved, you will definitely score more than 35 because there is a tool which is helping you complete the calculation faster. But calculator is not allowed. What can you do? You can improve your own calculation ability, right? Believe me, just shortcut formula alone is not going to help, right? You have to be very, very strong in calculation. So make sure that you spend at least 45 to 60 minutes every day on practicing on calculations. What type of calculations? Simple 2-digit multiplications, additions, subtractions, divisions, etc. Right? There are lots of speed maths techniques that you can learn and apply. But doing them is not going to help you, right? For you to be able to apply it in the exam, you have to do a lot of practice. Because, when you go for the exam, you don't have enough time to look at the numbers and think of what could be the best method. There you'll have to just look at the number and attack. For you to attack with the best possible way, you have to do a lot of practice. There is no substitute. Let me tell you, there is no substitute for hard work and there is no substitute for practice, right? So, very, very clear that you have to start practicing on calculations from now onwards. If you are thinking of, cracking this exam, if you want to crack this exam, you'll have to spend a lot of time on practicing on numbers. You'll have to spend a lot of time on practicing various types of questions, right? You'll have to spend a lot of time on vocabulary, and you'll have to spend a lot of time in reading newspapers and other relevant content there. Right? So I think to begin with, this is very, very important, right? And you cannot say that I'll practice on calculations in the last few weeks or last 4 weeks. I'll practice on vocabulary in the last 4 weeks. No. In fact, if you ask me, you can actually start preparing quantitative aptitude in the last 4 weeks. Don't even touch it. Doesn't matter. One way. But what is very important is you start practicing on calculations from now onwards. Every day 1 hour. Every day 45 minutes to 1 hour. And this 1 hour need not be at a stretch, right? From the time you get up in the morning to the time you go back to bed. Try to kind of keep thinking about numbers, right? Try to, involve yourself in dealing with numbers, right? Just think of 2 numbers, multiply, add, divide, subtract. You need not do it continuously for 1 hour. Whenever you find 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, just spend time with numbers. So automatically what happens is you'll end up, the challenge here is paperwork. You have to cut down the number of steps. You know that time management is the key, right? And why do we fail to manage time? Because we do everything on paper. So if you start doing calculations mentally, a lot of paperwork will cut down, right? You'll cut down the paperwork. And by that, you'll get the answers faster, right? It is very simple. The more you put on paper, the more time it takes. So you save a lot of time, and that saved time can be used for attempting more number of questions. You're getting it? Because overall, like I've told you, you have got only 120 minutes. 120 minutes to attempt 200 questions. So which is about 36 seconds per question. Now, can each question be answered in 36 seconds? Not really. You cannot answer all the questions in 36 seconds. I mean, some questions will take 10 seconds, but then there will be questions which will take about 90 seconds, 100 seconds, right? So, for you to be able to balance your time properly, you should ensure that you are very good in calculations, very sharp in calculations, alright? I think that's about the various sections there, right? What should be your focus? Your focus should be on calculation, your focus should be on vocabulary, your focus should be on reading newspapers and reading lot of content related to the various topics here. And general intelligence, like I said, general, right? Make sure that you are thorough with all the basic models there, basic types of questions, be it non-verbal reasoning or verbal reasoning or logical reasoning. Get to know all the different types of questions that are asked. All right. And I think the one point that I actually forgot to mention was when you are trying to decide the order of posts, right? The preference of posts there. Also keep a factor in mind about your growth, right? There are some departments where the growth will be much faster, right? You get frequent promotions, right? You can, see your career graph growing much faster than the other departments, right? So also keep those, that point in mind when you are deciding the preference, all right? I think Vamshi says tell about time management for cracking CGL exam. Well, Vamshi, I think this is not the time we really talk about time management and what should you do in that 2 hours. We'll definitely have one more session on how should you, how should you behave in those 2 hours, right? What should be your strategy for those 2 hours. But as of now, get started. I think the first thing that you all should do is start preparing right away, right? Do not delay your preparation, right? Complete the application process and start preparing. And more importantly, these day-to-day things that I've talked about, right? Newspapers, calculations, vocabulary. You cannot postpone these things to a later date. That has to happen from today onwards. And you cannot even miss it even a single day in this time that is there for you, right? There can be few days here where you have not prepared anything at all. Anything from quantitative aptitude or reasoning or English or general awareness. Okay. But there should not be a single day where you have not practiced on calculation. There should not be a single day where you have not learned 20 words. There should not be a single day where you have not gone through newspaper and something relevant to general knowledge, right? That you have to keep in mind, okay? Because these things cannot be done in one shot in the last few weeks, right? Day-to-day activities, it is like having food, right? You cannot keep yourself hungry for 10 days and then suddenly eat for 10 days on the 11th day. No, even if you try to eat for all the 10 days, only 1 day of food will go inside. You get it? It is like that. Only some part can be consumed on a daily basis. So that part you have to consume every day. You cannot consume, your consumption for 10 days cannot be done in one single day. That's the analogy there. So that keep that in mind. I think one thing which I wanted to do was quickly run through the paper as well. So I'll do that. I have one of the previous papers in my hand, and like I said, actually the paper is given out, right? So you can see that this is actually a booklet that was asked, handed over in a SSC exam. So let me just run through some of the questions here, right? Like for example, the first part that we get in this exam is general intelligence and reasoning. And see what kind of questions have been asked, right? This is like a sitter. From the given words, select the word which cannot be formed using the letters of the word Trivandrum. So there is a word given Trivandrum, and there are 4 options. Trivandrum is a word, and then there are 4 options. In each of these 4 options, there is a word, obviously made of some letters. You have to find out that word which cannot be made from the letters of the word Trivandrum. I'll give you the options. Like for example, rain. Now the word rain can be made out of Trivandrum, right? Because we have R in Trivandrum, we have A in Trivandrum, we have I in Trivandrum, we have N in Trivandrum. Can we make train? Yes. T is also there. So T plus rain, train can also be made. Can we make drum? Yes. Because the last part of Trivandrum is DRU, drum. Can we make druk? DRUK? No. Because in Trivandrum, K is not there. So tell me, does somebody have to explain you for solving these questions? No. It is to do with that. Now, like once you have spent some 10 minutes on these type of questions, you need not practice anymore. Now you can rule out that, okay, these questions are like done. I know how to answer. There cannot be a method by which you get answers faster. But elimination is very important. Instead of finding out that word which cannot be made, you should quickly find out which are the words that are, that can be made. Getting it? The reverse engineering, right? Always out of 4 options, 1 is correct, 3 are wrong. It is not compulsory that always you have to find out the correct answer. There are certain topics where finding out the 3 wrong answers is much faster than finding out the 1 correct answer. So you have to apply those kind of strategies. So not a content strategy, the approach. What should be the approach for these kind of questions? There are, many questions asked on mathematical operations. If plus is minus, division is into is addition, and subtraction is something else, right? Then what is the solution for this expression? done. I mean, like, you only have to practice a good number of questions so that in the exam you can apply it really, right? But there is no formula. There is no formula as such. So most of the questions here you will find that are like self-explanatory and easy to do. But practice will definitely help, right? Then questions on coding and decoding. Like I said, there is no definite method for coding and decoding. Right? Then non-verbal reasoning questions, questions on statements and conclusions, etc. I'm sure you will have the previous papers as well, so you not worry about where to get it from, right? If you don't have any, buy it from the market. I mean, there are many books which have got previous papers there. Now, importantly, general awareness. Right? Let us just look at what are the different types of questions that are given. What are the different topics that they have touched. I may not be able to answer the questions here, but just see the question. Where is the headquarters of Hindustan Zinc Limited? Now, this is like a stock general knowledge question, right? I mean, like, you should know about headquarters. Whether it will be asked in the next exam also, we don't know. But you should know. You are expected to know, right? Then, like for example, sky appears blue due to general knowledge. I mean, sky appears blue due to what? Rayleigh scattering, mice scattering, back scattering, none of the above, right? So, question on like physics, right? That was a question on physics. Then, a particle is moving in a uniform circular motion with a constant speed v along a circle of radius r. The acceleration of the particle is. Now, this also is on physics, right? Related to physics, right? Period of oscillation of 3 centimeter microwave in seconds is. So, all these are like physics questions, right? The period of oscillation. Then, the most advanced form of read-only memory is PROM, RAM, cache memory, or EEPROM. Well, I have no idea, but technology. Question we can say related to technology. Let me find you a question on history here. History, geography, and things like that, right? Then, transpiration through leaves is called. Transpiration through leaves. Now, this is biology, right? Transpiration through leaves. Something related to biology. Then, vulcanized rubber contains what percentage of sulfur? So, this is on chemistry, right? Uric acid is the chief nitrogenous waste in. I mean, related to biology. I mean, given the options here: frog, fishes, birds, mankind, etc. Oh, I think good that some of you have responded to my question, right? Like, I think the most advanced form of read-only memory is. I think many of you have said EEPROM. Well, I'm not sure. That could be the answer. The Nobel Peace Prize was awarded in which city? So this is like general knowledge, right? Where is this Nobel Peace Prize ceremony held? Right? Questions on sports. For example, Lionel Messi, the winner of 4 FIFA Ballon d'Or and World Player of the Year, belongs to which country? Right? Which of the following is a metallic ore? So this is on chemistry, huh? Buddha means what? Great conqueror, great saint, wise, or enlightened. Then comes quantitative aptitude, which will have questions from, I see questions on profit and loss, questions on allocations and mixtures, question on average, questions on simple and compound interest, one more on profit and loss, question on percentage, time and distance, trains, questions on algebra, many questions on algebra actually. Then question on trigonometry, okay, 4 to 5 questions on trigonometry. Then questions on surds and indices. Then we have question on time and work, right? Question on number systems. Then pipes and systems, right? Questions on mensuration. There are like 4 questions in a row on mensuration. Questions on discount. Questions on geometry. And finally, there's a 5-mark question on data interpretation. And finally, we have English comprehension, which again, like I said, has got limited topics. And if if you prepare with that exam in mind, right, the type of questions that are asked in the exam, you'll be able to score decent in this section, right? So I think the first 5 questions are idioms and phrases. So in the given sentence, some part is underlined. You have to replace it with something more appropriate. Then the next 5 questions are on improving the sentence, right? Sentence improvement. Then we have questions on one-word substitute, right? Questions on one-word substitute. Then questions on synonyms and questions on antonyms. There are 2 reading competition passages, almost about 10 to 15 questions on reading comprehension. Then there are 5 questions on sentence improvement, finding errors. Which part of the sentence has got an error? Then fill in the blanks, right? So again, English is like very predictable. English comprehension of SSC CGL exam. So I think that is about one of the previous papers. We'll meet again with discussions on these individual sections, right? We'll have a session on quantitative aptitude, then one on English comprehension, and one on general intelligence and reasoning, where we'll discuss previous year's papers. So that's all about the session today. Opportunity, a great opportunity, definitely a gateway to establish your career and get your dream government job. But remember, start your preparation right away and do a thorough analysis and complete your application process well in advance so that you can avoid those last minute hitches. Okay. So on that note, I would like to close this session. I thank you all for participating in good number, and also if you are looking for how do we actually get ready with the content, right? Where do you get all this content? You can explore our SSC CGL programs by TalentSprint. All these program details can be checked on talentsprint.com. Right? You can visit our website talentsprint.com/bank, or you can also call us on our toll-free number, which is 1-800-2000-916. Alright, I repeat, 1-800-2000-916. So if you have any queries about any of our program, or if you need more details, you can visit our website or call us on this number. Alright, and like I mentioned earlier, practice is the key. There's no substitute for hard work. So keep practicing, keep doing those daily things on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure you'll come out with flying colors. Right? All the very best. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.